Oh, as I lay across this filthy bunk, I hope time passes faster when you're drunk. These days I walk along these lonely halls, taking stock of all those things that fall. For every day I brew this nasty swipe. When the bulls come round, I hide it in a pipe. I toss and turn and pray to in this funk, and hope time passes faster when you're drunk. Well, they sent me up for shooting you, my dear. Next 50 years I'll be dying for a beer. Oh, I can't tell if this pain will ever end, and set this beer-starved heart back on a mend. Well, as I lay across my nasty bunk, I hope time passes faster. I hope time passes faster. I hope time passes faster when you're drunk.
All right. Check. Yep. We're doing this again. Doing it again. Doing it live. All right. So, yeah, as you can see, I'm not painting again. Yay. Well, actually, we're going to do that tomorrow. I felt like I needed to finish up this thing, get the other 3 decks out of the way, and that's it, because I don't know if I'm ever going to get back to it again. So we're going to do it now. We're going to do it now because I feel like it. And I don't feel like, well, I do feel like painting. I just don't feel like painting yet today. I mean, I could. I've been doing inventory again today, so I'm already here. I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. All right, here we go. I'm actually early today. I want to try to start streaming at 1:30. That's kind of my number. I don't know why. It gives me motivation to target thing time. Keeping, like, makes it feel like I have to do it at that time. Oh no, if I don't do it, then I should do it or something. I don't know. There's some kind of justification behind it. I'm trying to figure it out. Anyway, I'm just gonna check my make sure everything's all right. Yep, I can hear me. I can go. All right. So where we left off yesterday, we left off with the 3 mains from the main premiere Aliens Predator collectible card game. Today, we're going to hit one of the factions that was released in the expansion called Aliens Predator Resurrection, based off of a very mediocre movie that's only real claim to fame is that Joss Whedon helped write it. Other than that, it's pretty meh. Meh. Unofficial sequel to Aliens 3, which was also pretty meh. Of course, you don't really top Aliens. You don't. I mean, how do you go after that? That's like, oh shoot, I have to follow up for Eddie Murphy back in his heyday when he was a comedian and I'm just like some guy that used to do open mics. So it was David Fincher. he got better. That wasn't good. It was not good, but it wasn't bad. It was watchable. And then you kind of were like, well, they set up everything for the second movie. You kind of should have taken it from there and not killed everybody off. But I understand there's like licensing issues. I understand there's like people that don't want to do. They're working on other stuff. You know, I don't know. It just seems such a dick move, whole thing. But far better than his original idea, which was to make like a wooden planet where everything was made out of wood and they had technology of wood. And so yeah, that idea is we're probably better off we didn't get the full Monty on that one because that would have sucked. It sounded like it was going to suck. I don't want to see a wood planet. That's just weird. All right, so we're doing the one faction I have because this other faction that was released and it was the cloned aliens. And the fun thing about the clone aliens is they work almost identical to the regular hive aliens, except you don't get a warrior queen. You get a goofy little putty man called a newborn. It's just like a half alien, half putty, half human doughboy that runs around and eats people. And it's kind of cool, but it's too expensive. I didn't feel like. I mean, why do you need two aliens factions? You don't. It was no. They should have done something else with it. I mean, I guess they couldn't. Because, I mean, money and the whole expansion was based off of this movie. So I mean, it was what it was, and you know, it had him in it, and he's kind of cool. It's like the Hellboy guy, and then it's got her in it. She likes stealing things, and then it had this guy. I don't know who he is, but this guy here at the beginning, he was like the bad guy from The Crow. Yeah, so back in the day, I remember that stuff. Yeah, oh, he's a pretty good actor. Plays a real greasy bastard. So he does a good job. He's probably a really nice guy in real life, but greasy bastard kind of characters that he plays. So I mean, it works out. So this is my rogues deck, and let's get into the starting cluster. So we start off. Let's see if I got to do some adjusting with my camera here. Hopefully, I might have done something here to kind of fix up the camera a little bit, but we'll find out. So we start off with our main posse of hombres who don't know how to use military arms, so you have to use this other thing they're called what are they called? It's on here. Prohibited weaponry. They can use prohibited stuff, and prohibited stuff they're allowed to stash it and hide it so they don't have it, and then they can do a sneak attack during the movement round with it if it's stashed and hidden. But they have to rotate to hide it, and then it flips upside down, and then the next turn they get a chance to rotate again, which you can do stuff to do that, but I don't do that with this deck. You can rotate him to attack with it during the movement round, so they can move. This is kind of their thing. They have like a sneak attack, so everybody else attacks during the combat round. These guys attack during the movement round if they have a concealed item that's concealed, or a prohibited item that's concealable that is concealed. If it's a regular item, they have to attack like everybody else, like a normal weaponry or something that's military arms or something like that. They have to attack like everybody else during the combat round. But they can attack if it's concealed and it's a concealable weapon and it's prohibited. They can attack with that. I'm still not getting a good camera shot on this stuff. Let me see if I can do something here. Move it back. Move it back. One more. Is that as far as it goes? That is as far. Okay, so I'm just gonna shifty. I'm gonna shift everybody into alignment here. I need like a little blocking thing so I can see where exactly my my screen shows up here, but I'm not doing that today. No, we're just gonna wing it. So that's that, and back to this. All right, so you see everybody. So they can use the conceal back to conceal. So concealed, you know, you have to rotate, conceal it, and then it gets concealed. and then during the straighten or the ready round, you ready again, and then this turn you can move, so he can move up to his movement 1, 2, 3 locations, and then he can attack like it's the combat round, and it's a nifty little sneak attack thing that goes on there. So that's kind of their specialty, sort of. The other thing that they do is they can download, and one of the victory conditions is the main victory condition is always kill everybody else. Secondary victory condition for these guys is if they for the hostile takeover scenario specifically, it changes depending on what scenario you're using. But for this scenario that I have it built for, their secondary victory condition is that they can, if they ever have 25 combat pool, they win the game. So their whole goal is getting combat pool, and there's tricks that are allowed for these guys in the rules for the scenario that aren't normally allowed for other scenarios. It's a scenario specific victory condition for these guys. One of those things is, we're going to get into that when we get into the deck for the victory conditions and how you win with this deck, because this deck does not do combat well. Its weapons are very, very chumpy. All of the concealable weapons, like this wrist gun, see if you can see the words, because I'm getting a little glare off of it. You see the words on there. It does 6 damage per hit. You can shoot 2 different targets, or you can declare 2 separate targets. You have to roll to hit for each of them. So it's got a cool feature to it, but it only does 6 damage. I usually stick it on Christie here because he's made to go with this. His ability is he gets +2 to hit with prohibited range weapons. And if he rolls an unmodified 6 to hit with a prohibited range weapon, he does +4 damage. So it makes that into a decent damage dealing weapon. So that's where we put one of the items on him. We'll put the wrist guns on him. Vriest comes into play with a PTV, which is a vehicle. It's the first time they put vehicles in. How vehicles work are basically they replace your speed with the vehicle speed. Notice on him, he's got a 0 speed. He's got 3 power. This one also replaces his speed with 2, so it lets him move around. It's a little vehicle you can get on. You can only have 1 person on it because it's got a capacity of 1. And I'll straighten that up, and we'll move that into a spot where you can see it. And then this it doesn't require a driver resource. They were going to do vehicles, like they were going to have the APC and all the other stuff, all the fun little vehicles and stuff, but they never got around to it. They did release an expansion after this, technically, but it was solely for download and print to play because they'd run out of money and they canceled the whole franchise. I believe one of the main reasons was they could not get Arnold Schwarzenegger's likeness for the first Predator movie because he was being real. He asks for a lot of money. They couldn't afford it. So I think that was one of the main reasons why it canceled down. And we'll get into some of those details with the Terminator stuff when it comes, because there was one picture of him they were allowed to use where it showed his likeness, and they used it multiple times in the game. Because, hey man, if you can, you do. Other than that, they could use kind of likenesses, which was like special effects, prosthetics, stuff like the animatronic Terminator dummy that they made for when his eyeball was in the first movie, where he had the eyeball cut out and he was doing surgery on his arm. You could use prosthetics and stuff like that, but they couldn't use actual likenesses, and they could use other shots of him where he was kind of in frame. And we'll get into that with the Terminators. They had some licensing issues with this game, which is one of the reasons why it didn't succeed, as well as it could have. One of the popular misconceptions with this game was that it was unpopular when it came out, which was not true. I was there when it came out. You could not find this game anywhere. It would sell out the day of, and then you would have to. I remember very, very distinctly when the LGS that I went to had 2 boxes of Premiere, and we went through that in one day, and I got like maybe almost a full box of that, and there was another guy that got like half a box, and then there was a third guy that got another half of a box. Then he had to reorder it, and it took a while for the reorder to come in because the suppliers were out of it too. They underprinted it and then they misallocated it. It was strange. They had a deal with GameStop for this where they were selling it through GameStops. I bought most of my Premiere from GameStop and not my local game store. So figure that one out. And then GameStop ran out of it. And that was for the Premiere set. The Resurrection set was like hen's teeth. I think they got a couple boxes in. We never saw it again. It was gone, like the wind. Gone. The tournament support for this was fantastic. They hired representatives. Now, my LGS might have been an anomaly, because we had one of the designers of the game that worked at the LGS that I went to, and he was one of the not a lead designer, but he was like a secondary designer and a playtester. I don't think he made any money off it. I think it was all volunteer and he got free cards and stuff like that. But we also had about 4 or 5 credited playtesters in the book, in the rule book for Terminator, and we had 1 or 2 playtesters for Resurrection that went to the store and were regulars. One of the guys was an employee of the store, and the rest of us kind of hung around him in our gaming group. He was one of our main gaming groups. So our store might have been an anomaly when it came to this. I don't know how the rest of the nation went with it, but I know there was trouble getting it. The people that wanted it could not get their hands on it when release came around because it would just fly off the shelves. It was gone. So as for whether it was a success or not, I think most of the problems this game faced on release were licensing issues and the inability to hold on to the expensive licenses. They were overambitious with the licensing that they were going after. If they had chosen something less or even something that was more original, it wouldn't have had the draw. So they were kind of stuck. They were trying to be Decipher, and it was a book publishing company, and they didn't have any idea what they were doing. So I think that was the main reason why this thing fell apart, because it really could have gone much, much further than this. And it was popular enough to do it. It was like, I remember reading Scry and Inquests back in the day, and they would do like the most popular games of that month or the biggest selling games. And Magic and Star Wars were always flip-flopping for while Star Wars was active. And then Pokemon came out, and then Pokemon take the top. But during 97, around that time, 97, 98, when the first Premiere came out, this was like the 3rd to 5th. It would bounce between 3 and 5th best-selling game of that month. So, I mean, it was not a slouch. It had the numbers coming in. It just didn't have the longevity. So, I don't know. I hear a lot of talk about it not being popular, but they weren't there, and I saw it, and it was popular where I was at. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Back to the game. All right. So with this group, you start off with one piece of equipment each, except for that one comes for free. So that's the 6th piece. These guys get an extra piece of equipment just because of this dude right here, because he starts with one. But for this group, I opted to start with one weapon, which was that pistola, and we also started with some Terminator ammunition to kind of make their guns a little bit more dangerous, or at least a little more scary. Because again, these guys aren't meant for combat, but if we can scare people away from them, that's what we want to do. So we gave them ammo, which makes them scary. So there's a couple shotguns. The pistol ammo goes on this, which adds 2 damage to it, but you discard the ammo if at any time during the combat sequence, it's any combat sequence, so it could be during their sneak attack. He rolls a 1 or 2, a natural 1 or 2 to hit, you discard it, and then you just have to go find it again. But it gives you an additional +2 damage right off the bat. So technically, if he rolls a 6 with this thing for one of his attacks, he's going to be doing 6, 10, 12 damage, which makes it pretty much like a sniper rifle. So it's not slouch. It's scary enough. It's scary enough make an alien disappear in one hit. That's pretty scary. So usually they take about 2 with normal weaponry. But I also added a couple man stopper rounds for a couple shotguns I have here, which are also concealable, and those also do the exact same thing for that this one does, but they do it for shotguns. And then I added in, because we've got a little sneaky trick in here, we added in 1 ammo piercing rounds for the rifle, for a rifle, and this is a rifle attachment that it requires a rifle. The item gains +1 damage, and its damage is not reduced by armor, which is important, especially if you're going against Terminators and stuff like that. I wanted them to have something that could defend itself versus anything, even if it's just 1 weapon. And we'll get to how that works later on. Other than that, that's the starting package for the characters and such. I'm going to keep that ammo on top here because we're going to go back to that in a second. And then we've got our dudes. So we'll get these guys off the board. All right, so as for locations, you start with a dark alley, and I also chose the second location as an armory. So they're basically, they start here and they move up to the armory. They can search their stuff out. This stuff, there are a few military items in this deck that I want to search for, which I need the armory for. So I made sure that this is, when you start with locations in this scenario, they're distinct. If a player plays down, because normally how it works is if you play an armory down and your opponent plays an armory down, they're the same location you've just connected. But with the starting locations, they're considered to be distinct. So if I start with the armory, it's not the same location as any other armory on the board. It is a separate armory, which means we don't connect, and I don't die right off the bat. Because these guys are, they take 1 hit, they die. They don't use armor, they die. Everything hits them, they breathe on them funny, they die. That's how these guys work. So you want to make sure they're moving around at least. So armory and the dark alley are their starting locations. Gives you a little safe spot. We also have another defensive position in this one, which gives you some bonuses depending on what type of location you have to defense, which it helps out. It helps out on occasion. And then we've got just our assortment of other places. I'm going to set the important ones over here-ish. Steel mills in there so that if I need to repair something, I can repair it. Operations is what is the reason? Communications computers is what I'm looking for. Communications and computers. Cover and high tech computers, communications are what the rogues want to look for. So we got communications, high tech, communications and computers. We've got another computers and high tech. We've got another computers and high tech, but also with confined and cover, which works well with that condition that we have, the starting condition. We also have a vantage point, which has confined and cover and lets you rotate for combat pool. Remember, their victory condition, secondary, combat pool. 25 combat pool, you win the game. All right. We also have a tavern. For this scenario, taverns for the rogues utilize the game text. It works for the rogues for this scenario. So they can rotate a rogue, in this case, at this location at the beginning of the movement round to draw 1 card. And you can do that for as many rogues as you have there at the location. So what you'll do is you'll sit at the tavern and just rotate all your guys to draw cards. And then you'll have a stack of cards in your hand. And then last but not least, we've got the Rubble Hills, which connects everybody at the end of it. Now, how this works is you take these 8. I don't think we went through this the other day. You take these 8. This is your location deck. It's a separate deck. Rubble Hills always goes on the bottom, so it's always going to be the last card. Now, there's ways to modify that, but in this scenario, it's the last card. It's on the bottom. That's turn 9. That's when everybody's supposed to, at the very least, connect. So by turn 9, everybody connects. That's the timer. The location deck is kind of your game timer. So you shuffle up the rest of these, you put them on top of that Rubble Hills, and that's your location deck. At the beginning of the game, you take one of these, the first thing you do in a movement round, and you place it down, and that goes next to your starting locations. So let's say you've got your 2 starting locations out. You got an armory and a dark alley, and I just drew this communication center. This communication center would go up here, adjacent on the top, and it would be a second location that's attached to the armory. So it goes like this: outside, inside, inside. These ones are inside for this scenario. Exterior will say it for the Terminator cards. It says exterior. The Aliens Predator cards, its only entry locations are considered to be exterior. It's complicated, but it's one of the rules. They didn't have exterior locations when they came out with the premiere game, so they kind of adapted it as it went along, made it a little janky, but it works. So that's how that works for that part. Now that we've got that out of the way, we can move on to the deck. All right, so I was going to take out, let's go through it first. We're going to bring that ammo card back because we've got a couple cards in here that utilize it. Now, this the rogues for this scenario, if you pay 5 combat pool, now remember your victory conditions combat pool, but in this case, you're going to want to do it right away. And what I do is I basically look for the first place that I can rotate call to get a combat pool, or rotate another character at a combat pool location to get 1 combat pool so that I can play him for 5. And he is a rogue mercenary. He is a human, rogue, sniper, veteran, marksman, scout. Assassin may use camouflage, scope rifle, and rifle attachments regardless of normal restrictions. So he doesn't have to be a Marine to use Marine or military arms. So he can use those as long as they're related to the scope rifle or camouflage. All right, so since we have that, let's go and get him set up. He comes out later. It gives you a 6th character to work with. And in this case, it does exactly the same thing as my Marine deck snipers do. It gives you camouflage, it gives you a scope rifle, and it gives you a silencer so that he can go around and shoot from his hidden movement marker while staying with the rest of the gang in case they need the backup or he needs to rotate for something else. So that's what that does. This, however, adds 1 additional damage to it and makes it armor piercing, so it goes through armor. So he's a little nastier, but it takes him a little further down the game to get him in than the Marine snipers. And we'll see some more snipers, which are kind of a different mean coming up with one of the other decks soon. But this is just kind of a backup character that we bring in to augment our regular group and to provide a little extra scary. Now, again, remember, it's not meant to do combat. So there's not a lot of stuff in here that adds to your combat. But what we do have is we have I Thought You Were Dead, which was a promo card that lets you bring back a character that died. It's just kind of an incentive, and it costs 10. They make a lot of combat pools, so usually we'll put that in. It's kind of a placeholder for another card maybe, or the rarity of you ever having to use that. If you have somebody that does take out your sniper, you can bring him back, and you don't have to worry too much about getting killed right away. So it's kind of a little bit. It costs a lot, but maybe it's a useful card. I've never really had an opportunity to use it. So the rest of the cards in this deck are about evading and moving. All right, so this one you play at the beginning of the movement round, and you target 1 player in 1 location. The targeted player may not move to his characters into that location this turn. It costs 1 combat pool. So that's one that stops them from coming after you. It's all about evasion. It's all about keeping them away from the enemy. So we have that. We have a quick escape. Right here, we've got 3 copies of that. And it's all rogues present must move to a single adjacent location. The owner of the card chooses which single adjacent location. So all your rogues move for free. If they come into a spot where you're at, or they come into range where you're going to get shot at, you move them away. Use that card to move them away. Again, mobility is the key for this deck. All right, nobody's home. 3 copies of this. While an opponent is moving all your characters at 1 location, gain 2 moves immediately. You may not enter or leave an enemy's location. Again, free moves. Getting them out of there. Movement. The area is secure. We have 3 copies of that too. Play on a location with only your species present. No other players may move into or through the location until the next movement round. Now this is tricky because in this, we technically have somebody that is not the same species, and I have her sitting right on the top. She's technically a synthetic. However, I believe the ruling was, back in the day, that she counts as a human. But if the ruling ever does change, which is doubtful, or you're playing with people that are real sticklers for the rules, you just move everybody else before you move her, and then you do it on the new location, and then you move her in. It's not it doesn't slow you down that much. So that's the area is secure. Another movement. Stop them from coming to get you. All right, now we've got something here. This is kind of intriguing. Okay, so black market. So the text on black market, it says play on a location once per turn. Pay combat pool to add one resource to this location for the duration of that round. One combat pool for equipment, 2 for weaponry, 5 for military arms, 10 for predator item. Black marketeer may be found here. All right, it goes on a tavern or cover, and it does provide you with prohibited, so you can search for prohibited items here. Right, so how this works for this scenario, though, is black markets can be searched for from your deck for 4 combat pool, in addition to its normal abilities. All right, so you can get one from your deck for 4 combat pool. You can also pay 10 combat pool to make any weapon you have concealable, or turns it into a prohibited concealable item. That you can also do with it. You can also, with this card, for every data token you have, at a black market, you can exchange 1 data token for a combat pool. So that comes in, that's where this comes important, because this deck has Paul, who can store data tokens on her because she's a synthetic. She can store 5, but it also has 5 copies of portable data drive. And what you're going to do is all your guys, you're going to want to stick one of these on, and that's their job. They're just going to be farming these data tokens and putting it on these drives. They can fit 5 per each drive. And then you take them to a black market area and you exchange them for combat pool, which brings you closer to your victory condition. That's how you win with this deck. Again, not combat. You're wanting to get that 25 combat pool for the victory. So this is how you do it with the black markets and with these. Since we've gone through that, we'll go through. We have left here. We've got 3 copies to Lock the Door, which is another one of those restrictive cards. It's this one, target location with high tech or communications or computers. At the beginning of the movement round, characters may not enter or leave that location until the following turn. May not be played by aliens, player, and does not impede hive movement. So another thing that restricts them from moving. We've got security doors, which also, for the next 2 rounds, all your opponent's move costs are doubled. So that makes it so they can't move. They have to turn a predator from a 5 speed down to a 3 speed. It does not affect their defense. It just affects their movement points. Then we've got access tunnel, which lets you bypass locations. 1 or more characters moving together may move through 2 additional locations when moving this turn. These characters move with no penalty past all opponents, so you can go past guys. Lets you skip past them. Normally, there's an outnumbering feature, so if you have 1 guy and there's 5 aliens or 4 aliens tokens and 1 alien in the next room, you have to stop because you're outnumbered, and you have to stop, and your movement is restricted by each additional opponent character there. So if you've got 1 guy in the room with 5 aliens or 4 alien tokens and 1 alien, or any combination therefore that equals up to 5 aliens, you will lose 4 movement points. It doesn't affect your defense, but it does affect your ability to move away. So you get cornered, basically. You get trapped. You've got 1 guy there, they're surrounding you, you can't leave. So you're basically stuck at that point. This card lets you bypass that and gives you 2 movement points. All right, so we also have a black marketeer because he goes with the black market, and then he also gives you a little nifty option for this scenario. He is considered to be a rogue, so he's an additional character that once you search for him, you can put a weapon on him or something, or have one of those data collection devices on him and use him to do that. He does have a unique ability here. Rotate this character and pay 3 to find any card from your deck. Add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. When they mean any card from your deck, I believe it's any card from your deck. I can't remember what the ruling is on that. It might just be equipment because that's how they normally did it. So it won't be one of these cards like an action or event card. We also have Avery G. I allow this. I don't believe it's allowed normally, but he has communications as a trait. I allow that any card that needs location, the location they have communications, if he's there, it counts at the location having communications also. Just because it helps these guys out a little bit more, and they do need some help because the rest of the decks are very, very beefy when it comes to fighting. These guys are not, so it gives them a little bit, just a little edge. Maybe he comes out. You can do some stuff with communications. You can move him around and use some of the communication cards, which I believe. No, it doesn't work for these, but it will work for some of the other cards, like lock the door has a communications restriction. Um, call has a communications restriction. If she's at a location with communications, she can rotate to gain 1 combat pool. That I allow if he's in play, or that way she doesn't have to be at a communications location. You can kind of move it around and still rotate to get that combat pool. Just gives them a little edge, something that they can do. There's not a lot of nasty tricks in this deck. It's just pretty much straightforward. Just escape and do your thing and do it quickly. And it's kind of like the Aliens deck when it comes to that. Nothing terribly game breaking. The sniper rifle thing is kind of mean, but it's allowed in the rules. I mean, you're not bypassing anything. Everything that I do is mean, but it's not outside of the rules. So then we've got 2 collapsible shotguns. These are just a concealable ranged shotgun weapon that actually hits you with more acid if you get hit with an acid splash, so they're not always the most opportune thing to use. I got a thermos gun, which is kind of the same thing. It just does a little bit less damage. And then we've got a zip gun also, and that just rounds out some of the guns. They have something. They are armed. They're not well armed, which means you're going to rely on these cards to kind of get them around and move and basically you stall out, move here, move to one place with communications, move to the other place with communications, and then just keep downloading tokens and then taking it to one of the 3 black markets that you'll be setting up. So you'll have 3 black markets set up and just keep doing that, rinse and repeat. Eventually you'll win. These guys are the timer for the most part because eventually they will win if you're not doing anything. So if you can outblast them and beat them, you've got the game. But they're pretty quick and they move around a lot, so it can be a little scary. But yeah, so that's that. We've gone through that deck. Let's pack that crap up, put it away. All right, that was Aliens, Predator, and most of, like I said, the other faction that they released for it was the cloned aliens. They had one difference from the regular, like they had the newborn instead of the warrior queen. They also had mutations that you could play on them that were rare. They help a little bit. They do some stuff, but you only have alien warriors. There's no hybrids. So if you're doing like a hybrid deck, you're not doing that. No predator hybrid, no pet hybrid. They just had the alien warriors, and then they were really hard to get set. You need 6 alien warriors to make it work. You can use face huggers with them. You can't. No, I believe you actually. What did they rule for that? You can't use a warrior queen, and you can't use a normal queen. So you had to get the cloned queen, which is an expensive rare. And then you had to. You could use chest bursters, but only because they hadn't released a cloned chest burster yet, which they were planning on doing for the third or for the second expansion set, which was, I think it was called Atmosphere or something like that. It was supposed to be mostly Predator based on the first Predator movie, but they never got it out. They released it as like a download and print to play kind of a thing. And I mean, it's got some cool stuff. It had the APCs in it, which were kind of neat. The vehicles, it went more into the vehicles and stuff like that. And that was pretty much the end of the game. And by that time, it kind of fizzled out. Resurrection didn't help. They released this, I believe it was 2 years after or a year after the movie had come out. It was a substantial amount. It wasn't simultaneously released. It wasn't good. The marketing on it was poor. It was released after the movie had already come out and after it had already pretty much flopped in the theaters. So it was kind of like people were like, all right. They could have, what they should have done was they should have released the Predator set then. And then, but they had already made the deal. They had paid Sigourney Weaver for her likeness again. And then they were able to acquire everybody else's likeness from the movie. They got all the rights for it. So it was one of the more visually appealing sets, and they did change the style because they had gotten a lot of complaints on how ugly the cards were, and they changed the style, and I think they look pretty good. For the updated version looks pretty good. The pictures are a lot clearer. Again, it's a dark movie because it's aliens, so some of them are real blurry like usual. So the pictures they weren't on the level of Decipher for screen caps because they weren't. I don't think they were allowed to have actual source material. They weren't allowed to have the actual film as a source, like the Decipher stuff. They were getting the actual film from Lucasfilm, and that's why they made all these images. And then, of course, they fixed them all up, and they would take that little guy in a corner, and they blow him up, and it was on film, so it would blow up infinitely. It's not like digital, so you could get as much detail as was allowed on that film, and it looked good. This they didn't have that. They had screen caps probably taken off of a DVD or some other form of source. The Resurrection stuff does look better, and the Terminator stuff does look better a little bit, but it's still pretty ugly for the photos because they didn't. Again, they were limited by what they were allowed to use, so there's a lot of problems. Which is what we're getting to now. We're going to start with. Everybody wants to probably see this one, the Skynet deck. We start with the Skynet deck first and move on to the Resistance. Skynet deck technically does not have a dirty trick, except for the fact it is not combat oriented. It's just there to look mean, but it can do a little bit of killing if it needs to. Mostly it's going to be there to defend itself. So our starting characters we start off with this bad boy. He's our tactical command unit. He gives +1. Let's see what he says. He's got armor 3. He's an individual. You can only have one of them out at a time. All your Skynet characters gain +1 to hit, and you gain 1 combat pool for every character they kill. Every attack declared against this guy is automatically redirected to your choice of your characters at the same location. So if you try to attack him, he'll move it to another character, and you'll attack that guy instead. It's pretty useful. He's pretty much the only way to start off for a future war scenario. Skynet deck. So we got him here, and then the rest of our starting characters are going to be 5 construction drones. They cost 2 each. You can have no more than 10 points spent on construction drones. I chose to go this route because it gives you the most bang for your buck. You can have some of the other ones. There's one that costs 4. You could have 2 of him and 1 of these, but at the beginning it would only give you 3 construction points. And the construction points are how you make these guys work. They work similar to aliens in that they can reproduce. But they work different from the Marines in how they reproduce, sort of. Actually, it's probably closer to how the Marines work for going to the barracks and rotating to fight a Marine. That's how these guys kind of work, but they work with different locations instead. So that's our starting characters. We've got a couple pieces of equipment. We start off with 2 on him. We get an augmented musculature, which gives him a +1 to power. And if he was an infiltrator, it would give him a -1 infiltration. Infiltration is not important for a future war scenario. You don't have to worry about it at all. It doesn't mean anything for this. So he gets +1 power, and then this one gives him +1 armor. So it makes him a 4 armor and a 10 power. And how that works is when you're taking, this is how that works. So if you take normal damage, say he gets hit with a sniper rifle, which does 12 damage, right? He has an armor of 3 normally. You add the armor of that to his power. So 9, 10, 11, 12, which means he will absorb every point of the damage from the sniper rifle, normally, under normal conditions. With this, the augmented musculature, it adds 1 to it. So instead of 12, which is 9, 10, 11, 12, it would be 13 damage he could resist without taking any damage. And with the subdermal armor, it makes it 14. That's for normal damage types. So he could take a weapon that does 14 damage. If it's a weapon that does 15, like the Predator has, he's going to take 1 point of damage. If the opponent has something that's armor piercing, however, you ignore the armor stat completely. So he would be 9, 10. A rifle that does 12 damage armor piercing is going to deal him 2 damage that will get through his defenses, or not his defenses, but his resistance is what they call it. That's his resistance. And that's how the Terminators work. That's what makes them nasty. He's a 4 movement, which gives him a 4 defense. And defense is different than resistance. Defense is how much you have to roll in order to hit him. So if he's a 4, he's moving around normally without any modifiers. You have to roll a 5 or a 6 to hit him in a combat. And of course, you've got modifiers that'll stack on top of that. So that's how that works. I don't know if we went through that with the other ones, but I probably should have done that the first time, but here we are. I did it. It's what will happen. It's the thing that happened. On with the show. So we'll get him out of here. We'll get these guys out of here. All right. Here are the locations. We start off with a processor bank and a research and development facility. So this one's external, this one's internal. You can tell with the Terminator cards are easy. They got the little grid, like grippy floorboard crap that they use for trucks, whatever that's called. I can't remember what that's called. Anyway, they also have exterior on here and interior on here. That's what they should have done with the rest of it. Makes it so much easier to understand how these things work, and you don't have to modify the rules at all. We start off with an urgency, just like the Aliens deck. This gives you a +2 to hand size. We'll move that out of here right away. And then so the processor bank will let you rotate drones to draw cards, or rotate drones to add to your hand size. It's different than drawing cards. So basically, the first part of the game, you're going to move everybody up here, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to rotate all your drones, the 5 drones, to gain +5 hand size. So you start off with 4 hand size, you get 2, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 11 cards first turn to draw. And these guys need that because they're slow, they're lumbering, and they don't shoot very good. So it gives them a little bit of a bump. And that's what their strategy is. Again, I've timed these out. They work roughly he'll get the victory condition met by turn 9. Most of them will have it done by turn 9, except for the Predator, who goes a little bit faster than that. This helps them speed that up a little bit, and everything so far, I haven't tested them against each other yet, theoretically should work like that. All right, so that's our starting locations. We'll move on. We've got our additional locations. We go to Time Displacement Laboratory. That's a secondary victory condition that you can use if you want to. This deck doesn't use that, though. I don't have any infiltrators. You have to use it with infiltrators. They have to go there. You have to send them back in time. Then you win. This has 2 secondary victory conditions for these guys, which is weird because one of them they kind of had to stick in there on top of it. We've got a retroviral engineering. That one actually does work for the victory condition that this deck utilizes, which is mission points. So this thing, you play it, you spend 20 production from your drones, and you get 4 mission points. Boom. Automatic 4 mission points. And it stays rotated for the rest of the game. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, you've only got 5 drones and they only produce 1. Yes, we'll get to that. All right, so we've got a unit construction drone. It's a factory. It lets you build stuff. It lets you build stuff a little cheaper. I think you lose 3 on it. This one is a little trick for this one. You can utilize a card in there to make it so you can actually move your drones away from here somewhere else if you need to, because normally they stay here if you move here and it stays normal. But if it's damaged, it blanks the text. If a location gets damaged, it blanks the text. Just remember that, because there's a card that damages a location, lets you add to your construction pool, and then you can move your drones away from there too when it's time. But that's one of the little tricks with that. We got a clean room, another factory. It makes things cheaper to build. This one lets you search for what is it? Search your draw deck. You find main characters with that one, and it's also a factory. Here's a high tech location that you put it next to a factory, and it'll take an additional +1 production off, so it makes it a little cheaper. An automated armory. First, you're finding Skynet items, which includes implants, I believe. And then we've got a flight control facility, and that's all Skynet characters with flight gain +1 to hit. In addition, the event search patterns now requires 3. That doesn't matter. I don't have anything here that has search patterns, so it doesn't work with these. The game's made to play against all 6 decks are meant to play with each other. And I thought about a lot of the things that you could utilize that, and then of course Rubble Hills at the end. But I decided that make it less complex. We're not going to do that much stuff to, we don't need to have things that counter things outright that don't work for other stuff. You want to, even if you're just regular deck building, there's a thing called card economy. Putting specific cards in to stop a specific strategy from a specific opponent. It only works if you know you're going to go against that specific opponent who has that specific strategy. Those cards are generally unfavorable for if you're putting it in. You want something that has a little broader appeal to it, something that works under more conditions. Like, oh, okay, so you want something that'll be able to do a little less against the strategy, but will still benefit you against other strategies. That's card economy. I use that. Card economy. All right, so that's the starting package. You got your locations, same thing, works like everybody else, blah, blah, blah. On to the rest of this crap. All right. So let's start off with the big guns. So this one's all about building stuff and how you build things. And this is per the rules, right? You have to be at a factory location, and then you rotate during the production step, which is the movement step. It's the same time that alien matures, I believe, happen. So if you go to a mature phase and then you go to the production step, and the production step happens after movement. So you've got your drones, right? And this one has this one has, what is it, 5 more? 5 more of these drones, which are advanced construction drones and a servo admin drone. Servo admin drone is a singular, I believe, or it's an individual. It works like you can only have one of them in play at a time. So if he gets killed, then you can bring another one in. But as long as he's there, you can't bring a second one in. So we only have one in this deck anyway. He can rotate to give a +1 to all your other drones. So we have 5 drones from my starting package, plus these 5 makes 10. Okay? These guys at a specific location get an additional +1. So at that specific location, we can now have 15 production. You have to spend them all at the same time, and then you can bring a character that has something like 15 cost here into play. So if these guys at a specific location with the other drones can all spend, with this guy's help, to get 15 construction points, you don't save them. You spend them when you use them. So you spend 15, then you use them. There are things you can do with them, though. So, for instance, you can buy this guy, and he comes into play rotated at the location, at the exterior location that you craft him at. Now, as it stands, you can get upwards of 15 under good conditions, but most of the time you're only going to get 10. We have things that modify that. So we're going to pause from the characters and go into what you can do to up your production for that turn. And there are a few things. My favorite one, let's see if we have it here, is called Blown Power Grid. What blown power grid allows you to do is target a location where 5+ drones just rotated to generate production. Double that specific production and add the damage resource to this location. Discard this event when the damage resource is removed. Remember I told you had that location which kind of traps your guys there? You can rotate all your drones there, produce something. You can drop a blown power grid on it, and it damages the location, but it retains the factory. You just don't get the benefits from it, so you don't get the -3 to it. As long as this is in play, you can also move your guys out of it if you need it to. So the blown power grid will let you get out of that specific spot with that specific location. Most of the time, though, you'll probably want to sit there and keep building stuff. It's a good spot to build stuff, but you might have to move. It happens. So blown power grid, and we have 3 copies of that in here, lets you double it. So now we've just turned 10 minimum to 20 minimum with one blown power grid. That's 20, all right? Okay, so we're getting at a place. We're getting at a place. If, in the scenario that these guys are sitting at that specific location that gives them that additional +1, right? Actually, did I do that right? So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 becomes, that becomes, oh, I'm sorry, no. I had it wrong. These guys produce 1 each, right? So it'd be 5 + 5 = 10. 10 minimum, rotate this guy to make it 20 minimum, or 20, and then this guy makes it 40. And then if you hit 40, you can play one of these maximum production, which is a mission, and this will give you gain 1 mission point. Play when you spend 25 or more production at one location in one production step. All your drones generate +1 production for the remainder of the game. So now you've done that. You were at 40, right? The next time you play a blown power grid, these guys are going to be 2 each, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The other guys are going to be 2 each. That's 20, becomes 40. Play a blown power grid, it doubles it, right? Double that specific production. You now have 80. You play another one of these, and the next turn you do the same thing, right? So now we're at 80. These guys have a permanent +2 to them. So he's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 times 2 is 30, right? 15 plus the other 5. That's another 15. That's 30. Doubled becomes 60. And then another blown power grid becomes 120. You see how this works? That's how you get your production up. All right. It does damage the location. And in order for you to undamage it, we also have a couple copies of Shifting Sands. Cancel and discard any permanent event except barriers in play, or cancel and discard an opponent's Shifting Sands as it is played. But not only that, you also have on these advanced construction drones, rotate to remove damage from an item or to remove a damage token from a Skynet character at its location. Oh wait, he doesn't do what I thought he did. That's just from an item. Or to remove a damage token from a Skynet character at its location. I thought there was some guy that did that though. Let me take a look here. Huh. This is the other? This is the basics? Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the one I'm looking at. All right, so you've got your regular construction drones, which you start off with 5 of them. These guys will okay, you rotate 3 construction drones at the same location to remove a damage from their current location. So you can do that with 3 of these guys too. It's easier with the Shifting Sands. That one's just a card. You play it, it removes it. So you play one of these afterwards. There is a combo that you can use to combat this deck, which also utilizes another Terminator card. I didn't put it in. It works like Hull Breach. It's stupid, and I hate it. And it should be at least 1 per deck, or just not allowed at all. I don't use it because it makes it so that that location, as long as it's damaged. Now, again, too, this Terminator deck is one of those few decks that will actually be able to combat a Hull Breach deck because it has the Shifting Sands in it, which would be able to. There is a sort of a card that works this way for Aliens Premiere, but it costs combat pool, and it's okay, but it's a waste of a card slot. Just don't play with that card. You shouldn't be playing that way anyway. That's mean. Don't do that. Don't be mean. Unless you have to. I mean, you can be mean. I don't mind if you're mean. I'm mean sometimes. Some of these decks are kind of mean. Let's just be honest. But that's just beyond my mean level. Personally, I say no, 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 no. I personally don't do that. So I didn't build my decks like that. So those cards aren't in it, even though I have them. I'm not going to use them. All right. Anyway, moving on. When you've got all that production, you want to spend it on stuff. So we've got characters to spend stuff on. We've got the Urban Ground Assault Vehicle. Move him on here. He's a big nasty. He's got a 9 power. He's got a 2 move. So he's got a 2 defense. He's easy to hit. But he's got a 9 power. He has 5 armor. And he gets a free ranged attack against every opposing character at an exterior location within range during the search round. So at the end of the round, at the very end, during the search round, he's like, oh, yeah, you're in range. I can shoot at you. So he's got his free attack. He does 10 damage. He does have a normal long range, 10 long range damage. So he has a normal attack that you can do during the combat round, right? So he pays for 1 attack for 10 damage. And then at the search round, he gets a freebie if you're still there. He nasty. He mean. He shoot things. And I got 2 of those bad boys in here. And you definitely have enough construction points to build these guys with a minimum, because one of the complaints for this game, let's get into it. Collation, if you thought collation was bad for the Aliens game, welcome to Terminator. This is the game where they gave you an okay starter deck and an okay starter deck to fight against each other. They're pretty decent, but they're just past. If you wanted to do a Future Wars where all the cool stuff happens with all the cool robots, you got to buy a lot of boxes. I'm not kidding that. You want a full set of this game? It's 360 some cards. You want to get a full set? Not even talking the promos, which are almost like impossible to find, even for the ones that were giving us prize support, which you could barely find them. But they got 2 promos that are practically, they thought they were a myth. They didn't think they existed until a guy showed up and he had a handful of them. And then people were like, wow, how much for it? And they sold them for like $40 a piece for a dead card game 20 years ago. Now they sell for a lot more than $40. Now they sell, even the prize support ones are, there's a couple online right now. If you want them, you can spend $200 to get them. I don't recommend it. They're probably not worth that much. They've been up there for a while. But I thought the collation was bad with that set. Welcome to a new world of hurt. You got to buy a minimum of 12 boxes to even think about getting a set. 12 booster boxes. Don't buy the starters. They come with 1 booster pack, and most of those are gimpy. You might get a rare. You might just get multiples of the same freaking common in the same pack. I seriously, if this was an accident, it feels like a troll. It feels like, fuck you. Welcome to the world, man. They really dropped the ball on this one, though. And then they had a lot of people complain because you would get a box. So you'd get 1 box, right? You might get 1 of each of those drones. You might get 1 of each. You might just get 1 drone, either of the ones. So you had to buy, in order to get enough to play a Future War scenario, you needed to get, like I have 10, 5 of each, and then 1 rare. This is a rare guy, so he's different. I actually caught a couple of him before I even had a full set of ready to play the other ones. You would need to buy like 5 boxes just to get a set to play a Future War scenario. These cards were stupid ridiculous to get the commons and the uncommons. They were just stupid ridiculous. Rares, some of them, again, it's the same thing that was going on with Aliens Predator. There are some that are rarer than others, and there are some that are just super common. And the ones that are super common tend to be the most useless pieces of crap that you'll never put in the deck this side of tomorrow if you had a choice. And that's how it is. And that's how it's been. And it wasn't helping them when they were trying to do the second set for this and only got as far as development. But most of that was because of Schwarzenegger, honestly. The collation thing, oh, it was terrible. It was awful. And it was the black mark that added to it. They were like, oh, we thought you fixed that with the Aliens game because that was terrible. And then Resurrection came out. It wasn't that bad. Collation was pretty good. They can do small sets pretty good with whatever scheme they were using. But for large sets like 300 cards, 350 cards, no, bad. No, do not put, if you're going to put a sheet out for commons, don't put 2 per sheet for some and 1 per sheet for some. That just makes them rare. They did the same thing, and they did it twice. Insanity. It's literally the definition right there. So, all right, we've also got, we'll just move on. All right, we got aerial recon units, which work kind of like those guys, but they fly. And there's a cool thing about flying characters. Flying characters can't be targeted with close combat. Uh-oh. So you're going to have ranged. That means aliens are going to have a tough time with these guys. Again, they're both kind of like the same thing. So you might be able to overwhelm them. You know, honestly, I hadn't thought about that. That is kind of I guess it does work out though that each one of these decks there is something that kind of does somebody else in. Like they're specialized at doing a specific one in. And the aliens get rammed by these guys. But the aliens will pretty much take out the rogues. And the idea is the aliens will take out the rogues and the Marines. The Terminators will take out the aliens and the Predator to an extent. The Predator has an effect that they can get around it. But I wanted some kind of a balance between the species where there was there's a guy that can handle you. Okay, a little bit easier. Predator seems like I might have to test it out, but he might be able to handle everybody. But he's just one guy. So I mean, it still goes wrong with the theme. But anyway, moving on. So we got the 2 aerial recon units. We've also got a mobile assault unit, and this guy has the bonus that he can put 2 arm-mounted Gatlings on, and he can shoot with each for a discount. I think he gets a negative to hit. Yeah, he attacks at -1, so he can have 2 of these. Normally, he can only have 1 on one character or used 1 at the same time, so he can have 2 of those on. But also, he doesn't suffer from outnumbering penalties, so he can move in. He's a hit and run artist. He moves in, shoots at your guys, no matter how many you have there, shoots twice, and then he can leave. He can run back and repair afterwards. So that's one of the cool things with him. And we'll get into some of the other options here too after we go through some of the other characters. We've got these guys here, and these guys will stick with my main guy, and they kind of act as his little henchmen. They're henchmen maxing. These guys right here. Thank you, Fleckus. Shut up. Anyway, henchmen maxing. They got big armor. The main big shot. Where did I put him? Here he is. We'll bring him back out. So this guy, if you target him, you're going to want to because he gives everybody +1 to hit. Everybody. Doesn't matter if they're at the same location or not. They all get a +1 to hit. Any Skynet characters. So you keep these 2 guys with him. And if you attack him, he redirects it to one of these guys. And then fun ensues. That's how that works. And then the last, we had the rest of those drones. We went through those. Let's go over some of the items here. We have more augmented musculatures and subdermal armors. We've got a set for both of the bodyguards, both of the henchmen. Then we've got 2 40-watt phased plasma rifles. So effectively, we can have 1, 2, 3, 4. The aerial units have a free attack, or not a free attack, but they've got an additional attack on there. You can utilize it. It attacks free guys that are in areas where there isn't a dark resource or something like that. But they also have a long range attack also. So we've got this the two big tanks have an attack. The 2 aerial units have an attack, and then we've got 2 weapons for those 2 bodyguards. He doesn't have a weapon. He just has armor, and then we've got 2 on that mobile unit. So we've got a decent force that can defend themselves. Again, the whole point of this is to get them making robots and producing production. And the reason why we do that, now here's a mission debriefing. I have one of those in here also. And that one adds to the missions that you're going to be playing. There are a couple other missions that I have in here for mission points, because you get 12 mission points, you win the game. It kind of works like the rogues. These are tactical analysis. These are if you get attacked and the guy survives. All your lethal characters in play get a +1 resistance. So again, it makes them harder to kill. And resistance again is that, so this guy here, 9 resistance normally, resistance added 3. So if he's getting shot with a normal weapon, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 with that card. And there's 3 of those in there. 16, 17. You can get him pretty nasty. He's going to avoid a lot of damage. You're going to have to do some funky stuff. It'll eventually get to a point where they just cannot be hurt. There's nothing you can throw at them. And that's the whole point, because that's what they want. They want to stall you out so that you keep shooting at them and keep pumping bullets into them like the bullet sponges that they are. And they don't die, and then they get tougher. And they don't die, they get tougher, and they get mission points. And the mission points win them the game. That's how the Terminator, that's how my Skynet deck works. Mission points win you the game. But we do also keep in 1 copy of Fearless in case we need to shoot at something. And this one is target one of your characters. The target gains +1 to hit. Also, if he is Brave or Skynet, for each point he reduces his defense, not below 0, he gains an additional +1 to hit. All of these guys have a 4 defense straight off the bat. So you can safely reduce one of your guys down. In fact, what I'll usually do is I'll stick a weapon on him. If I get that card out, I'll move one of the weapons over to him, one of those phase, and I'll take him with his 2 bodyguards so that when you shoot with this guy, he can add 4. It reduces his defense down to 0. But you can't shoot him. You can't, because he moves it to another guy. So it doesn't matter. So he has a 0 defense. Oh, isn't he juicy looking? He's got a 0 defense, but he gets a +4 to hit. +4 to hit, which is insane, which adds to the one he already gets. He gets a +5 to hit. That's crazy. That's almost like the Marines, but it's only 1 guy. So I have 1 copy of that in there just in case. So they can do some fighting. It's not recommended. You want to stick to your plan. Here's the fun part. Remember how many construction points we're getting? You can spend those on the data stream. Wow, it says permanent. Draw 1 card for every 3 production you spend for this effect. If you have 30 production left over from buying a bunch of stuff, you just got 10 free cards because you spend them all at the same time, right? You don't store them up, but you can rotate you rotate them all and you collect it for that turn. You think of it this way, right? It banks for the turn. So if you rotate them all, you get 120. 120, which isn't even the most you can get out of this. It's getting close to the cap. But if you had 2 of those, you can play 2 of them at the same time, and it doubles it and doubles it again. It's stupid. So you get a lot of production. 120 will get you, what is that? 120 divided by 3? Is that 30 cards? No, that'd be 90. No, 120 would be 40 cards. 40 cards. You get 40 cards. You get your whole deck in your hand. Your whole deck is now in your hand. Again, the Predator can stop that with his stuff. He can make, dwindling the options. He just got rid of all your stuff for free. Oh, no. So everybody's got a counter for everybody else. I tried to do that. All right. So we also have some unit deployments. These help you move your little dronies around because they don't have a lot of speed. One of them's got a 1 speed, I think. This guy's got a 2 speed. That guy's got a 2 speed, so they're slow. So you want to move faster, play a unit deployment. You can play it at any time. Target 1 location and play all your characters at that location. Gain 2 movement points, which may be used immediately, regardless of the current round. If playing during a combat sequence, it must be played prior to the roll to hit. So if they get in a spot, you don't want them to get fighting. You want to get your little dronies shot at. Play one of these, you can move them immediately before the combat round goes to to rolling cards. So again, cool card, makes you move, good stuff. We got a laser defense grid, which is a barrier. It acts as a barrier 9. No, it acts as a barrier with a maximum of 12, depending on how many high tech or computers locations are in play, with a maximum of 12. So it's a 12 barrier with this. If all the locations are out, it's a 12 barrier. That stops people from going through it. But it stops, it stops you from shooting through it. So, I mean, it does stop it. This one does. We'll get to one that doesn't in a minute. We got 3 Sentinels, which changes the dark location to light. It removes the dark resource, which is good because then you can start shooting at stuff with your planes. But also, this location, if it has the high tech resource, every unhidden opposing character that enters it is attacked by 10 short range damage, limit 1 per location. It's a sentry gun for the Terminators, but it doesn't do not as much damage. The sentry gun does 13. This one does 10. 10's still pretty nasty. We got 3 in there. You're defending your territory, so you can go around building your stuff. We have a card in here called Inspiration. Discard 1 card from your hand to immediately draw the top 2 cards from your draw deck. That's just at the beginning of the game, gets you cycling, just cycling. Speeds stuff up. And then the last card we have for this deck is What's the Date? Gain 1 combat pool. In addition, you may rotate one of your main characters who is at the same location as a character with the police resource to gain an additional 2 combat pool. The idea is to get your deck down so it's low enough that you can keep using mission debriefing multiple times in the same turn. It can be done, and it adds a +1 or a +2 to your mission points. It's all about those mission points out, man. You got 6 missions. Each one adds a 1. You can make it a 3. You can win in like a couple missions. But again, I tested it out. And in theory, by turn 9, you've won the game. Just like the rogue deck. By turn 9, you can win the game. Sometimes. Sometimes it's 10. Sometimes it's longer. But it can win by turn 9. It doesn't win very much at all below turn 9. It might, but the chance that it had happened is less. Turn 9 is pretty much where you're shooting for. So that's the Skynet deck. Now we got the last deck. And I'm out of breath, man. All right, the last deck is my Resistance deck, it's the second faction that came out with the Terminator CCG. And I need water. All right. So we went through the Terminator. It's kind of a solitary deck. You just kind of sit there and do your own thing, like the Aliens deck. It doesn't have an option. The Aliens has the same option. They can do combat too if they want to. The more you get those tokens on an alien, the more deadly that alien gets. You can go around hunting stuff. Same thing happens with the Terminators. They got that 1 card in there that most of the time you're just going to use it defensively. That's what you want to do because you're going to keep building stuff. Just build stuff because you want those cards. And most of the building too, it's not about bringing the guys into play. The guys in the play just help keep people away from you. It's about getting your whole deck into your hand. That's what the whole point is, so that you can get those mission cards out. Boom, boom, boom. Just the ones you keep adding every time you spend 25. And with that card, data stream, you're spending a lot more than 25 most of the time to get a bunch of cards, but you're spending your entire allotment. Every time you make production points, you're spending them on something, which counts for the victory condition for those cards. So that's how that works. Let's move on to a more combat-oriented deck again. Kind of like the Marines. They work kind of similar. These guys are a little nastier, though. I think these guys, as for the Marines, I put in those extra characters to kind of combat how absolutely brutal this deck is. This deck for combat deck is stupid. And we're going back into dirty trick territory. So we're starting off with our starting posse. And we don't start with the dirty trick in this deck on purpose. Because starting with the dirty trick in this deck is bordering into the stupid hull breach territory as to how stupid it is. You can actually, the worst part about this is it's not even as far as this can go. This can go farther. It can go infinitely farther, and it's rare dependence to do that. I don't have it nearly enough to make that go, but you could technically make a whole deck up of one card, and with the right team, just keep doing the same thing. Well, it wouldn't be one card. It would be one card that equaled out to about 37 cards in your deck, and then you would have 3 other cards, and then your location deck, and you can, and then starting with the right combo of stuff. We're not going to get into that. We're not going to tell you the secret sauce to this one because it just makes it dumb. But it starts off a lot like our Marines deck. We don't get some of the same tricks, but we get some similar tricks for this one. We've got a sniper rifle. We've got a 50 cal. This guy does 12 damage, and it can do a lot of the same stuff. You get to do 1 extra range, just like the scope rifle at negative to hit. This one, however, you don't have to rotate to unrotate it. You don't have to manually reload this one. This one just rotates, so you can only use it for 1 attack per turn. And then during the ready round, it unrotates like normal. So it's a little faster, but it does less damage. It does 12 damage instead of 13. It has the same options as that otherwise. We have a bottled courage, which we stick on our Major Jensen here to give him brave. And there's a reason for that later on. We have a first aid kit, which we stick on our Private Garston here to use his ability, which is can rotate Garston with a first aid kit to remove all damage tokens from a human or animal at this location. Anyone who's played this game, I want you to notice what that says. And we're going to read first aid kit to quantify it. All right. Discard this item to remove 1 damage token or 2 if owner has medic from a human or animal at the owner's location. Here's the key. May not be used during damage resolution. Let's go back to Garston and read him again. Rotate Garston with a first aid kit to remove all damage tokens from a human or animal at this location. Notice what it doesn't say. That is never been ruled on while the game was alive. So it's completely legal to rotate him with a first aid kit during damage resolution to remove damage. And that's not the most broken thing about this deck. All right. We also have a composite body armor. And you give that to any of these chumps. I usually give it to Wiggs first. And I also give her my little Uzi 9mm. We give her some of Israeli gun manufacturing's finest equipment right there that somehow survived the Great War. She doesn't keep that stuff, but we'll get into that. All right. So that's the starting lineup. We got a sniper with a little bit of courage. We got our absolutely broken Private Garston down here. And then we've got the rest of this. Major Wiggs adds +1 speed to all of your Black Shield unit regiment characters. And that's going to be her, him, and him. They're all Black Shield. So they all get a +1 speed. So he becomes a 4, he becomes a 4, he becomes a 4, and she becomes a 3. All right? Remember that. That adds to their defense. To roll a die now, you now have to hit a 4 or better for her, a 5 or better for the rest of these guys, except for this guy here who he stays a 2. He stays a 2 for the moment. He gets better, but he stays a 2 right now. All right, that's our starting lineup. Let's move on to the next portion. Locations. All right, so Firebase Delta is your standard start, and then you get 1 interior location. I use an Aliens Premier location called the Armory. It lets you search out your military arms. And there are a lot of military arms in this deck, and equipment, and weaponry. Either of them, any of them. That's what the armory does. And an armory does well. It's distinct because it's a starting location. So it's not the same as any other armory that gets played later on. Cool beans, you're rolling with fire. You can bring with this during the search round. If you do not control a resistance private, rotate your leader at this location and search your draw deck for one. That resistance private immediately comes into play at this location. You get a free resistance private. You just turned your squad of 5 into a squad of 6. And we're not done yet. That's our starting locations. All right. We're using a condition called protection. All your resistance main characters are +1 speed and +1 power, while a human supporting character is at their location. Your supporting characters may not carry or use ranged or close combat items. All right, so you get an additional +1 speed and +1 power if you've got a human supporting character, and that's the kind of character you find in the deck that's got a different border. It's not a main character. The main characters will look different. It's like the Cocoon Victims for the Alien deck, or I had the one deck, the Marines had a Quartermaster. That would be a supporting character. Those are supporting characters because they come out of the deck, you search for them. They don't count as the searchable main characters for this scenario normally. So that doesn't count for your resistance private. It will only count for another card that we have in the deck later on. But +1 speed, +1 power, right? These are important because now we have a potential of adding +2 speed to all of our main characters, which makes our 3s into, actually the 3s became a 4. Now they're a 5. They're a 5 now. They're a 5. They're this many now because I can count. All right. And we move on. We've got an underground archive, a surplus depot, which is a backup location we can get military arms, city ruins, an alleyway for connectability, just like the Predator deck. These guys you want to start shooting as soon as you get a chance to. So we've got an alleyway, connects you up. What the alleyway does, I don't think we went through this. Target one exterior location when the alleyway first comes into play. Alleyway is now considered adjacent to that location in addition to its normal adjacencies. These guys are different than the Predator, though. Predator wants to move there. These guys don't. These guys want to create a spot that's location that is open, that's connected to where you're at, but they don't want to move from their secure location, so they won't. And we'll get to that. It gets funky. Locked storeroom is an interior that gives you another chance to get some more military items. A construction site will let you find another resistance private. So you can have an additional 2 in play simultaneously. The first one, if you don't have one in play, you can pull this one out. This one just lets you get one. So you want to do it the other way. You want to do that one first, and then this one second. If you do this one first, you can't bring the second one in. You see how that works? But it doesn't really matter. Do whatever you have to at the moment, because we'll see how that works out later. The next thing we have is a sewage tunnel entrance. When you bring sewage tunnel entrance into play, you may search your draw deck for a sewer location and place it above this location. Sewer's where you want to be. These guys want to be in the sewer. They want to be all up in the dirty in the sewer. They are sewer dwellers. They're like the Ninja Turtles, because the next one we have in there is a sewer. We have one of the sewers in our location deck. We have one of the sewers in our draw deck. And if you get that sewage tunnel entrance, you can pull the one from your draw deck out and immediately put it somewhere into play. If you get the one from this deck, you can immediately put it somewhere into play. You got 2 chances to get that out. You want the sewer. Sewer's where you want to be. We'll get to that. And last but not least, of course, is Rubble Hills, which connects everybody. Sewer, we're going to keep out for a minute. Actually, no, we're going to move on. Because we're going to talk about how our resistance privates work first. So you can search out through those 2 locations to get 2 resistance privates, right? And there's 2 resistance privates in your draw deck, just for that occasion. All right. We also have a Lieutenant Ryan and a Sergeant Kyle Reese in the draw deck also. Both of these you want to have into play eventually. You want to kind of focus on Reese. You want to get Reese in. So here's how this works. It's a little tricky. We're going to go back to our starting peeps again. And we're going to actually go back to two pieces of equipment that we have out here. Right? We've got our Uzi 9mm and our composite body armor. The first resistance private that comes into play, you want to move these over to. All right? So let's just say we got one resistance private in play. All right? Now we're not talking about these guys yet. So we got these guys. We've got to move. You got an Uzi. You got a composite body armor on. All right? Now, Lieutenant Corporal Devlin adds +2 to hit to one of your characters with sniper. Oh, that's with sniper at the location. He doesn't work. Never mind. He doesn't work. I was thinking I could actually get an additional +2. But how the Uzi 9mm works is you get a damage +2 to hit. Oh, it does 8 damage at +2 to hit. Long ranged. Does 7 damage. Oh, I'm sorry. The short range is +2 to hit with 8 damage. Long range is 7 damage. No pluses to hit. Okay, that's how that works. So and here's the thing with this too. Owner may roll 2 dice when using this item's short-ranged attack and always use the higher roll. All right, so you get to roll twice, 1 attack, 2 times you roll, 1 attack at +2. So he's got a +2 to hit. All right? Okay. So there was something that I took out of this starting lineup, and I'm wondering if I should put it back in, but it's not that big a deal. So he's got a +2 to hit, which isn't bad. Now, if you read the resistance private here, you can have multiple resistance privates in play at the same time. At the end of any round that this character has survived an attack by an opposing character, you may replace him with the first resistance main character from your draw deck. So you search your draw deck, you find a resistance main character like Kyle Reese or Lieutenant Ryan, and you replace him if he takes damage but doesn't die, or he gets attacked and still survives. All right? Now, if he takes damage, this guy comes in with damage. Okay? So he has to be attacked by something. All right? At the end of any round that this character has survived an attack by an opposing character. All right? Opposing character. It can be any opposing character. Yep. And because they ruled that you can attack your own supporting characters, it means that you can also be attacked by your own supporting characters. However, there is an addendum to this. Human characters that are supporting cannot voluntarily attack other humans per the rules. They can attack other things, but they can't attack humans. But animal characters can. They don't have the same human species rule. They will attack. So you can legitimately have, and there are 3 guard dogs in this deck, right? You search the guard dogs out at your firebase location. So you can go find a guard dog, and he comes into play. Woof, woof, I'm your best buddy. I'm man's best friend. Oh, what's coming is terrible. Yes, it is. Here's where it gets fun, all right? So you can legitimately have your guard dog that is controlled by you attack your main character first, all right? Which makes him uncontrolled, but the attack still goes through. At which point, you can attack the doggy back, all right? So the doggy is going to do 5 damage. You just put armor on him. He's a 3 armor, right? So he's got a resistance of 6. So the doggy's not doing him any damage, which means he just survived, which means you can then search your deck and find one of your other characters and bring him into play. And again, you want to aim for Sergeant Kyle Reese if you can get him and bring him into play. Oh no, Kyle Reese is in play now, and your engine of stupidity has begun. So now that we've gone through how to bring in your characters into play, let us mosey on to the next stage of stupid. All right? Now, you've got a dog that is now there. You can also attack it back, remember I said. At which point we have an Oath of Allegiance Black Shield unit, 1 copy in this deck. And that is specifically for Kyle Reese. And that is so that when he shoots that doggy, all right, when he rolls a 2 hit, at least 3 higher than the target's current defense, this character gains the marksman resource and is now a part of the Black Shield unit regiment, which means he now gets the +1 speed. So, when you have the human character in play, we get an additional +1 for our objective. Or not our objective, but our condition, our battle condition, right? So you have a human character in play. He's at the same location. He gets +1 to his speed, right? He now can get a +1 from our leader, who is our main character, for an additional +1, which makes him 3, 4, 5. He's now a 5 speed, right? He also has +1 defense naturally. He is now a 6 defense, 5 speed character, which means if you shoot at him, you have to hit a 7 or above. But we're not done. We're not done yet. All right? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, yes, here it is. We have 3 copies of Echelon Formation, which is a permanent that all of your characters, both main and supporting, gain +1 speed for the rest of the turn if they begin the staging round at the same location as your leader. We have 2 leaders in the deck. We've got Lieutenant Ryan that comes in later, and we've got our Major Wiggs who starts the game off. Both of those give him additional +1 speed. So now he is a 6 speed, 7 defense character. That means you have to roll an 8 or better to hit him. We can also stick on an armored tactical helmet. Oh boy. To Kyle Reese. Kyle Reese also gets an additional +1 armor with his +1 defense. So now he has 1, 2, 3, 4. He has 5 armor. He has as much armor as the biggest Terminator machine. 5 armor, which means that if you actually get past his plus is 8 to hit, if you hit him with it, you do all you can to hit him. You now have to get past his 4 resistance plus an additional armor from this. That's 5, 6 for the helmet, 7, 8, 9 for the body armor. All right. He now has a 9 resistance. You have to deal damage 10 or more to do him damage. But that's not all. Actually, I think that is all for him. It's getting close to being all for him, right? So, yeah, I think that is actually all for modifying him up, because there is more you can do with that. You can actually do something to make that even worse. You can make him the most nasty. He can be bigger than he's like a mech that just keeps growing if you wanted to, but we didn't put those cards in on purpose because I didn't want it to be unbeatable. And you're getting into the territory above that in the unbeatables. Once you get past 14 damage, if you can get 15 resistance off of him, you're done. There's no more damage. You can't. There's like the Predator is the only thing that can hurt him with a card, or the Predator deck I have, which is an instant kill, instant hit. So, I mean, technically I could put it in here, but I mean, it's a lot of work to get him there. And I only have 3 of the card I need that's being used in the Terminator deck. What you do is there's a card for the Terminator game that allows you to. I told you I wasn't going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell it to you. Right. It allows you to use a Terminator implant of cost 4 or less on a resistance character for like 1 combat pool. You play this card. If you have a Terminator implant in hand, you can play it on. All right. Now here's the thing: without restriction. Without restriction is what is listed on the card. So what that means, though, is that we're going to go back to the Terminator deck real quick here for 1 card. Augmented musculature. All right. Normally, you can only play Terminator implants on Terminators or Skynet characters, right? Requires Terminator. It's a restriction. So you can play it using that card, which does eliminate restrictions on Kyle Reese. Oh no, he now has an additional +1 power. Oh no. How cool is that? That's neat. But the beauty is you can have as many items in your deck, pieces of equipment, as you want. You could have a whole deck full of these and 3 of those cards and do just that. Every turn, all you're doing is you're paying combat. Now you're gonna have to find a way to make combat pool. So you're gonna have other cards in there, but you can have a lot. You put a lot of these guys on it. But these are rare. They're hard to find. I have 3 of them. And I didn't want to take them from the Terminator deck because they work better in the Terminator deck. And also, it's stupid. Because what can happen, every time you get one of these, because it has, without restriction, you can keep putting them on, even though you can only have 1 on, and you just keep cycling it like that, and you keep putting it on. So at the very least, if I have 3, I would have 3 of them on him, which would make him +3 power, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's 7 power. He's now a predator. He's now a predator. 7 power, right? Plus the armor, +5 armor, makes him 12 resistance. 12 resistance just for having those 3 on, right? And a 7 defense, 12 resistance character. And it gets worse. Because you don't have to use the augmented musculatures. You could actually use, subdermal armors. And those ones are common. You could have a lot of those on there too. And those add +1 armor. This one actually says limit 1 subdermal armor per character. This one also says limit 1 per character. Well, how funny is that? It has no restrictions. The card has no restrictions. It negates restrictions, so you can just keep stacking them. So now, if you have, like my Terminator deck, which only has 3 of these and 3 of these, I now have 3 more armor to add to the 5 armor. That's 8 armor added on to his now 7 power. 7 plus 8. That's 15. That means he is immune to all damage without modifiers in the game, except for my specific Predator deck. So we don't do that. Kyle Reese is bad ass enough right here. That's fine. I'm fine with that. So we stopped. All right. Carrying on to what's left of this deck. So now we have problems with, we've got our items, we've got our characters. Here's some additional equipment that are going to be sticking on people. We went through those guys. We went through those guys. We went through that. We've got 3 copies of this because not only do we have him with armor, we've got snipers that can utilize these, and these guys can be used with this. And it makes it so that they don't get negative modifiers from shooting in dark places. So the dark negative modifier doesn't count because of the helmet. They also get additional armor. So they get 2 armor with this. They get hidden movement markers. 2 of them, but that's enough because you basically, not only do you have massive Kyle Reese sitting here, we've got another badass in this group. We have Private Gray, who, with the use of one of these and all the other bonuses that he's getting, because he's getting those bonuses too. Remember, we're getting +3. He's a black shield unit. He also is going to be with a guy that's a human supporting character, which is another +1, and then he's also going to be with the echelon formation. He gets a +3, so he's going to be a 6, right? 3 + 3 is 6. This gives him an additional defense, so he is now also a 7 defense character that has to be hit on an 8 or above. But he also gets hidden movement markers. Well, he gets 2 to start off, 1 decoy, 1 regular one. But he also gets an additional 2 for being him. He has now become the best predator in the game. The only thing he's missing is one of them crazy silencers. I drew the line at that. That was another one of those calls that was like, I draw the line. I draw the line at this. Because he can technically start off with one of those silencers, technically. I'm ashamed of some of the stuff I do. I am. I really am. I feel shame for some of these things. Because he's also going to have a Barrett on him. And in fact, I got another person that can get a Barrett too. There's 3 Barretts in the deck, and they shoot at they +12. There's 12 damage, and they shoot at it gets worse. It gets worse. All right, remember? We're just gonna go through the equipment real quick. We got some rifles, some people. We got some bombs, which blow the crap out of stuff. We got a Beretta 92F, which lets you shoot an additional character. That's cool. Put that on a leader. Boom, boom, shoot, shoot. We got this, which gives you an additional +2 if that guy. You rotate this guy if you got a rifle, and you can get an additional +2 for somebody. Massive plus bonuses. We have another composite armor for just whoever I feel like. We've got a thermal imaging scope to give somebody a +1, an additional +1. We got a main sniper. It's not this guy. He's not the main sniper. This guy's like a harassment sniper that just goes around and just screws with stuff because he can. And the other guy just stays in one spot. We've got 3 copies of the armor piercing, so he can just kill anything with armor on it. And then we've got 3 pack rats. We got 3 guard dogs. Okay, and then we're back to the sewage tunnel entrance and the sewer, right? And remember I said, sewer's where you want to be. Okay, so our main sniper, the reason why he's our main sniper, and we're going to assume that we have a sewage tunnel entrance and a sewer out. And we're going to also assume that we've got our group sitting at, with all their stuff and fancy shit, all their fun stuff, sitting at the sewer, right? They're all in the sewer. They love the sewer. They're there. This badass, he's got on him a bottled courage, okay? He's got on him a Barrett. This is our main sniper. He's got on him probably either the composite armor, or if he's feeling particularly dirty, I think there's a second. Did I have a second one in here? No, I don't have a second one in here. I think he has the composite armor on, and then he's got one of these helmets on, right? So he's got some armor. He can also see there's no dark to dark penalty, so he can shoot in the dark, and he's got that stuff on. All right. So he's sitting out here. All right. His text says he's +1 to hit with rifles. Rotate a character with scout or sniper at Jensen's location to allow Jensen to declare an attack against a character 1 location beyond the current range of the ranged item at -1 to hit. The sniper rifle does that too. So you can modify the sniper rifle to hit an additional range out, which means you're shooting 2 locations out with just the sniper rifle. With Jensen, you're shooting 3. So he's here, he can shoot 1, 2, 3. 3 locations away at a pretty substantial negative. He's getting a -1 for himself and a -2 for the sniper rifle. That's -3 he's shooting at. He has a +1, so he's shooting at a -2 now. He has on also, where did that little thing go? I had a scope that I put on him also. Where did I put it? It's around here, and it's probably in the stack of this. Oh, Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Thermal imaging scope. He can view hidden movement markers adjacent to the owner's current location, but it also gives him a +1 to hit. So he's got a +2 now, which means he's only at a -1 for shooting at 3 locations away. So he can shoot 1, 2 for his sniper rifle and 3 for himself, right? 3 locations away he's shooting. We also have a couple copies of Fearless in here. And that one too lets you reduce your defense to 0 to get pluses to hit. Did we tell you how many he has for defense? Well, he's got a 3. +3 makes him 6. He has 6 defense. Fun part about him is it works almost identical to the Terminator scenario that we went through. Because Kyle Reese over here, he does the opposite thing that Terminator does. Instead of that Terminator deflecting the attack, Kyle Reese absorbs it. We'll read him for you here. Persona. That means you can have one of him in play, period. And then he dies and you can't bring him back in. +1 to hit, +1 armor, +1 defense. Whenever an opposing character declares an attack, it must target Sergeant Kyle Reese if he is within range of the attack. Sarah Louise Connor, Mother of Two's effect overrides this effect. So you have to target him if he's in the location. So you're safe to drop Sniper Boy here down to 0, which gives you a +6 to hit, which gives you a +5 to hit, seeing he was already at a -1. +5 to hit. Now you're saying to yourself, but why the sewers then? Well, that's simple, because we've got a little card in here called Manhole. And Manhole, permanent, play on one exterior location. It is now considered adjacent to all sewer locations. That's a sewer location. You play this on any exterior location in the game. Your opponent's, your own, anyone's. He can now shoot 1, 2, 3 into their territory. Ashamed, because we're not done yet. It gets even worse than that, because we also have a reinforced hardpoint, and a reinforced hardpoint is a barrier of 9. Reinforced hardpoint, however, unlike other barriers, you can shoot through from your side. They can't shoot you, but you can shoot them. So this is how this works. Rotate your character anytime during the staging round to deploy this barrier across his current interior location and an adjacent location, any adjacent location that you are now adjacent to with a manhole. Your characters may ignore the barrier when declaring ranged attacks. So now, even if you don't have Kyle Reese there, they got to shoot the barrier before they shoot you. And he's shooting 1, 2, 3. And they got 3 manholes in this deck that you can place at various locations and shoot at +5 to hit because of that stupid card and the rest of his junk on him. And there's 3 reinforced hard points here. And if they do damage your reinforced hard point, you have a reinforced structure which removes all damage from it and then adds 2 to its strength. That makes it 11, and you don't have to have damage on it to play it. You can only play it on 1. Oh no, you can play it 1 time. You can play it on 1 of them. one time. All right. The last two cards we have are unit deployments for mobility. That's for moving stuff around. You get 2 free movement points is always good. The Terminators, that's one of the things you don't get that so easy in the Aliens Predators stuff. So you have that. You can move everybody around anytime during the game, which is good. And then last but not least, if you end up with one of your main characters in your hand that you want to bring into play, and he should be in your draw deck, but he's not. We have a desperation here, which shuffle your entire hand into your draw deck, then roll a die, 1 to 3, draw 1 card, 4 to 6, draw up to your maximum hand size. It's one of those few occasions where you're hoping to get the 1 to 3 because you draw the 4 to 6, you got a chance of drawing that guy back into your hand again. But it's a chance to get that character out so you can bring him into play to do the other stuff. So, yeah. I saved the shittiest deck for last. And shittiest by just being just the nastiest, meanest. I mean, this one is giving the Predator deck a run for its money for just sheer abusive BS in it. Because it doesn't suffer from any of the downfalls of the Predator deck, right? And again, this is to combat the Predator deck. Again, see how this works is I got a deck to handle each situation. You got this guy that's gonna fight the Predator. And the Predator's gonna be like, oh shoot, these guys are gonna be tearing into my butt. But you're gonna be able to kill 1 or 2 of them, maybe. I mean, infinite hit, infinite damage. Yeah, you can definitely get past these guys' defense. So the Predator deck almost kind of combats this deck too. They're kind of like made to go against each other almost. And they're both faster too than most of the other decks. These are the fast decks. So this one I haven't really tested that much to see if it runs that 9-turn thing. I have a feeling this one runs low too. I think this one runs probably with 7 or 8 turns. It used to run longer. It used to run 9, but I added in a starting location which severely sped it up, and that was that armory. I finally got an extra armory to put in, and I put it in this deck. And I have to test it to see how it works. If it doesn't work how I want it, I'm going to put the original situation back if it's far too fast. But it was running about 9 to 11 turns before it was really rolling. And that gives people plenty of time to come up, especially the Predator. So I wanted something that moves a little quicker. I think the Armory will do that. It'll let me get all my equipment out fast, which really slims the deck down quick. Other than that, I mean, that's what I have. I call this the most expensive board game that I own because it kind of blows all the other board games I have out of the water for actually sheer amount of money that I put into this, and it is a stupid amount of money. It's a ridiculous amount of money, but yeah. So that's that. That's the retrospective on what I have from a Dead Guard game from the years 1997 to the year 2000. Aliens, Predator / Terminator / technically 2 different games / technically the same game that works together with each other and has a scenario that actually was official when it was released to work. And that's the one scenario we use that lets you play with all the toys, all the nasty tricks, all the dirty, abusive strategies. And my theory on this, which this I did remember there is a theory that I took from this and modified it into my own game, and that was if you're gonna go, you can't be scared of power creep if you start off with the most abusive crap you can think of in the beginning, and then slowly taper backwards, or don't do anything, or just make things even more abusive. Just don't even worry about power creep. I'm not even gonna worry about power creep. Because what I learned was when most of the time these games they only last about 2 years, and you get maybe a couple expansions out of it, and it's gone. It's done. You're not Magic the Gathering. This isn't going to be forever. It's not a forever game like that. Or Pokemon, because frankly speaking, hey, I got a theory about Pokemon, man. I don't think any kids are actually playing Pokemon anymore. I don't think kids can afford to play Pokemon. I think they have to have rich parents who collect Pokemon in order to play Pokemon. It's not like it was back in the day when it came out. It was just little kids playing it. It was little kids, and they annoyed the crap out of us. And we made fun of them at the LGS all the time. They pull the Pokemon cards out. And we had one guy that went in with it. He was like, yeah. And he bought a collection of Pokemon, massive collection, had all the big stuff back in the day. He'd probably be a millionaire now if he kept all that shit. But he didn't, because he sold it a year later for half the price he bought it for, and then bought it back a year after that for twice the amount he paid for the first group. And I'm pretty sure he sold it afterwards too. So I don't think he has any of that stuff left. But if he does, he's doing okay. He's doing okay as long as he's selling it. But man, Pokemon. Kids don't play that anymore. That's just for people my age or slightly younger to collect and hang around their neck and bejeweled freaking nightmare pieces. Yuck. Just yuck. And with that, I think we're done. I think we did a good job today. 2 hours. It's a little longer than usual. I'm cutting into my workout time, so I'm going to head out. Clean this crap up later. But anybody who was watching this, rock and roll. Thank you. Have a good night, day, thing. Yeah. Hope this is enjoyable.